Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into a brand new preseason series where I will be one by one releasing my preseason top 10 teams for college football here in 2022. Since it is June 1st, I wanted to kick it off today, starting with my official preseason number one team. I've got some things I want to go through. I'm going to do this with every top 10 team in my rankings. But yes, Ohio State is my preseason number one team. I do have a current $2,000 bet on them to win the national title, plus 450. I made that a few weeks ago. So how these videos are going to work, I've got 5 or 6 things I want to talk about. The first thing is going to be the schedule, the toughest game, the quarterback situation of each team, a breakout player, the biggest question for the team going into the year, and then one bold prediction, and that's how we're kind of structure these videos. I'll try and do one a day, but it might be a little staggered. There might be, a streak where I go 5 straight days with one, then one not. Then it just depends. But I'm going to start by doing my top 10. I might expand it to do my entire top 25. But right now we're going with my top 10. And again, my preseason number one team is the Ohio State Buckeyes. The first thing I want to do is look at their schedule, digest it, and kind of just give you guys an overwrite on the games, how it lines up, things like that. So we know week 1, they've got the massive, one of the biggest non-conference games of the year versus Notre Dame. That's a 7:30 ABC start. I think this is a phenomenal position for Ohio State to be in. Notre Dame with a new head coach, first-year quarterback on the road, night game, prime time. Ohio State is due for a huge win here, in my opinion. Right now, the early spread is Ohio State minus 14. So that'll be, it'll be a tough week 1 game, but I expect Ohio State to win and possibly win big due to the lack of experience on Notre Dame's side in terms of their head coach and their quarterback. Ohio State returns C.J. Stroud. We understand that. I'll be talking about him in a little bit. Week 2 and week 3, you've got 2 very easy home games. Arkansas State, that's a noon game on Big Ten Network. You're looking at probably like a 63-3 type win. And then Toledo. Fun fact, Toledo is actually supposed to be one of the better teams in the MAC. But in terms of this game, it will likely be another 50 burger for the Buckeyes. That's a 7 o'clock start on Fox. So a primetime Fox game for Toledo University. And then week 4 is going to be another big game. We expect this game to be either at 7:30 or 3:30 on ABC versus a very good Wisconsin team. Should be fun, but I expect Ohio State at home. They're just simply more talented. If this game was on the road at night, it would be very scary. The fact that it's at home makes it more manageable, makes it easier. So I would say week 1 and week 4, you're looking at a little bit tough games, but I expect both of them to be wins. They're at home. Week 5, Ohio State is also at home, so a little bit of a scheduling quirk here. The first 5 weeks of the regular season, Ohio State plays at home, and it's an easy game against Rutgers, who is improving, but that's a 3:30 game. I'm guessing it'll be on FS1 or Big Ten Network, if I had to guess. And then it kind of gets a little harder. There's a stretch of 3 games at Michigan State. I will be very interested in the start time of that game. If it is a night game, that becomes a lot more tough. Ohio State does have more talent, but I'm hoping Big Noon snatches this game up and puts it on at noon. That would be a tough break for Michigan State. The 22nd of October, you have Iowa, so that'll be another revenge game, similarly to the one last year against Purdue. We remember Iowa crushed Ohio State back in 2017. This is the first time those two teams are meeting. And I did see an early line on this game, Ohio State minus 24. Iowa should be decent, maybe 8-4, whatever. But Ohio State's way more talented. And then the tough game at Penn State. It'll be very interesting, the start time of that one. Will it be Big Noon? That would completely screw Penn State's whiteout. It's looking like Fox is going to get the rights to this game. Would they actually put it at Big Noon? That would be tough, but I think, I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but I think the Penn State game is the toughest game for Ohio State in the 2022 season. It just depends on the time. Is it a night game? Is it a whiteout? I know Ohio State normally wins the whiteout games, but they're always very close. Penn State does a great job, and Penn State is due to win one of those games, in my opinion. The next week at Northwestern, I would imagine this might be a noon start on maybe Fox Sports. If I had to guess, I don't think that'll be a hard game at all with Northwestern. I know Northwestern does the every other year thing, so maybe this year they're going to be good. But even if they were, Ohio State always crushes them anyways. And then you've got this is basically 3 straight easy games, 3 straight guaranteed wins versus Indiana, noon. This one might also be on Big Ten Network. Ohio State, if you guys didn't know, is obligated. Every Big Ten team is obligated to play at least 2 games on Big Ten Network exclusively. So obviously the Arkansas State game and then one of these other conference games. In Indiana, Ohio State will be like 40-point favorites. At Maryland, with Tonga Vailoa, they've got some talented receivers, 2 really talented receivers. They can throw the ball around a little bit, but you're looking at like a 53-20 type win for Ohio State. It always seems like when Ohio State faces Maryland on the road, it's always late in the season. It does. And then the final game, the game versus Michigan. When it comes to this one, the chances of Ohio State losing to Michigan, I don't want to, jinx anything. Virtually 0% chance Ohio State loses to Michigan. If you think Ryan Day is losing back-to-back games against Michigan at home with a returning Heisman-level quarterback, you're smoking something. Michigan got a huge win last year. They totally deserved it. They crushed Ohio State. It's not happening again. So that gets into our toughest game. What do I think the toughest game is going to be? Right now, it really depends on the start time, but I think that game at Penn State, because it's on the road, say what you want about Sean Clifford, say what you want about James Franklin. Sean Clifford is a veteran. He's a veteran quarterback. He's a manager. If that is a whiteout game for whatever reason, maybe Fox doesn't get the rights. Maybe they decide to put it as a whiteout game. It's at night. That is a daunting contest. And I know Ohio State fans say, who cares about the whiteout? We always win in the whiteout. But it's always an extremely close game. You remember the year where they won with Haskins. Very lucky. They were down by 2 scores late in the 4th quarter in that game. The whiteout is no joke. I have a lot of respect for Penn State's program. To me, the Penn State game, it's the toughest game. You also could say maybe Notre Dame or Michigan. At Michigan State is a little sneaky as well, depending on the start time. If that's a night game, that is interesting. I feel like they're going to get screwed by big noon on that one, though, and that'll be a big noon game. So we will see. When it comes to the overall quarterback situation, this is one of the easiest teams to do this on. C.J. Stroud, last year, his first year starting as a true sophomore, or as a redshirt freshman, 44 passing touchdowns. That was 3rd in the nation. 6 interceptions. He had the best QBR in the nation. He was 5th in total passing yards. By the way, that's not playing a game. If you guys remember, he didn't play the game against Akron, where he could have padded his stats even more. He probably would have finished with around 50 passing touchdowns. C.J. Stroud right now is the Heisman frontrunner. There's really nothing else that needs to be said. You take a look at the overall offense, Trevion Henderson, we're looking at least 1,600 rushing yards from him. I think he could be the best running back in college football next year. The combination, Saquon Barkley-like with Trevion Henderson as an athlete. Just the overall size, the overall agility, the overall swiftness, the overall speed. Trevion Henderson has everything. I think he could be better than Bijan Robinson. Next year. And then the receivers, you say they lose Garrett Wilson, they lose Olave, 2 first-round picks. They still have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who arguably could be the best receiver in college football. And then you've got a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who stepped up in the Rose Bowl and caught 3 touchdowns. He's going to be great. Also, Emeka Egbuka. Unbelievable, number 1 overall player in his class. Great return man. Every time Emeka Egbuka touched the ball on a kickoff return, I feel like he brought it out to at least the 30-yard line. Like, he could be one of the best kickoff return mans in college football next year. But yeah, C.J. Stroud, the only question would be the offensive line. How is Paris Johnson Jr. going to do at left tackle? Some people think he's going to do extremely well. This is a former 5-star top 10 recruit in the nation, number 1 offensive tackle in his class. Ohio State needs Paris Johnson Jr. to really step up. He's projected right now to be a top 10 pick in the 2023 draft. That is simply based off of recruiting projections because he has not played a single snap at either tackle position. Last year he played guard. He transitions to left tackle. The only question would be really the offensive line. You've got a superstar quarterback. You've got superstar receivers with an unbelievable wide receiver coach, and you've got a superstar running back. Also, Mayan Williams and Evan Pryor. Evan Pryor, former top 100 recruit. Has he bulked up? That was one of the things we saw him as a true freshman. Very skinny. Has he bulked up to the point where he can actually handle a little bit of the load? I love Mayan Williams as a short yardage back. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. He also has a little bit of wiggle, but let's be real. I want Travion Henderson getting the ball 90% of the time, if I'm going to be honest. Personally, next we have potential breakout players, and I'm going to go to the defense on this one. I'm going to give defense and then offense, and the guys I'm talking about are 2 pass rushers who were ranked 4th and 5th overall in the 2021 recruiting class. We're talking about JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, especially JTT. That's a man crush of mine. I love JTT. These guys, they're going to step up. They're going to be unbelievable. This Ohio State defense should be vastly improved. JTT as a freshman, 3.5 sacks, not horrible. Jack Sawyer, very similar numbers. They didn't play a lot. It's tough as a true freshman. You also have the return of Zach Harrison, and I think Zach Harrison is extremely underrated. Maybe he doesn't get the most sacks, but when you look at pressure rate, he's up at the top. And also the thing with Zach Harrison, he's so lengthy, he's so long, returning for his senior season. He wants to make money. He's looking at NFL draft boards and he's not seeing his name in 2023 first round mock drafts. He wants to see his name. He's going to be very motivated as a senior, as a former 5-star prospect. He's a freak athlete. We already know that, to really make an impact. So it's really the pass rushers that I'm looking at breaking out. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I love Emeka Egbuka. I know everyone's going to say the breakout offensive player for Ohio State is Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be a beast. He really will. Also, what's going on with Julian Fleming? I hope they give Julian Fleming a legitimate chance. Julian Fleming is one of the highest rated receiver recruits in history of recruiting. He is. So let's give him a legitimate chance. But what Emeka Egbuka, not just as a receiver, when it comes to returning kickoffs, he was so good last year. I cannot wait to see how he develops. This is a former 5-star, top 10 overall player from the class of 2021, the number 1 overall receiver in the entire country. It'll be very interesting to see how he develops. When it comes to Ohio State's biggest question, everyone knows it's the defense, and my question would be, how much better does Ohio State's defense get? We know they're going to get better. We know they're going to get better with all of these young players from the 2021 class entering their sophomore years. Jack Sawyer, JTT, they're gaining experience. And then you've got the true freshmen, CJ Hicks, Sonny Styles to a lesser degree. At the linebacker position, they are going to get better, but it's just like under Jim Knowles, they'll be better, but are they going to be top 10 good? Are they going to be ultra elite? When it comes to the defense, I'm actually thinking Ohio State might have the best defense in the entire country in 2023, not in 2022. 2022, I'd say I'm hoping for top 10. I'm hoping for a top 10 unit in terms of yards allowed per game and points allowed per game. But in 2023, when JTT is a junior, when Jack Sawyer is a junior, when Jordan Hancock, when J.K. Johnson is a junior, and you've got a guy like C.J. Hicks as a generational type linebacker entering his sophomore season, I think Ohio State's 2023 defense might be better than their 2019 defense that was led by Jeff Okudah and Chase Young. That's how good they could be. You're also talking about the big guys in the middle, like a Michael Hull Jr., who was a top 100 recruit, like a Tyleik Williams, who flashed as a true freshman. He didn't play as much as I would have liked him to play, the way he was doing things. I mean, he had like 6 sacks, I think, if you look at his overall stats. I believe 5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, and he wasn't playing much. He wasn't playing. He was probably playing like 50% of the snaps. So Tyleik Williams is a defensive tackle I'm extremely high on for this Buckeyes defense in the coming years. And the thing is, with how good the offense is going to be this year with CJ Stroud, you don't need the defense to carry you. Like with a situation like Clemson this coming year, they need the defense and all those 5-star defenders they have, the Barrett Carters, the Miles Murphys, the Brian Breeses, they need the defense to carry them. Ohio State, if you have the 10th best defense in the country, that's probably going to be good enough. That'll definitely be good enough to make the playoff and probably be undefeated in the regular season. And my prediction right now, guys, I don't see Ohio State losing a game in the regular season. If someone wants to debate me on that, on any potential game you think they could lose, I mean, the week 1 game against Notre Dame, I just can't see it with Notre Dame bringing in a new quarterback, with a new coach, with Ohio State returning so much, especially C.J. Stroud, Ryan Day. And then the Michigan game, I mean, I'll debate anyone. I'll make a bet with someone. Ohio State's not losing to Michigan, guys. It's not going to happen. Not 2 years in a row at home with a returning starting quarterback. Come on. I saw the first line for that game. Ohio State was like minus 14. And the thing is, it's not even a disrespect to Michigan. Michigan, phenomenal year last year. They broke through. They made the playoff. That's awesome for them. You have to be realistic about it. You have to be realistic about it. And with this Ohio State team, when it comes to my one bold prediction, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. I think this team, we're looking at the greatest offense in college football history, personally, next year. And I put the over-under at C.J. Stroud passing touchdowns at 59.5. Just when you look at everything, when you look at the total offense, again, I know people are going to try and argue, you're replacing 2 former first-round receivers, but they've got so much depth there. We already saw it in the Rose Bowl with players stepping up, and also, you talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., you talk about Emeka Egbuka, you talk about JSN, you've also got a wild card that could turn into a superstar in Julian Fleming. You've got star running backs. You've got a, superstar running back, Trevion Henderson, great complimentary back, Mayan Williams, great, prospect in Evan Pryor. The only real question would be the offensive line, and we expect it to be good next year. I think the real question is if Paris Johnson goes to the NFL, how aggressive does Ohio State get when it comes to the transfer portal for 2023? Because there is going to be a very deep need for an offensive tackle for Ohio State in 2023. If Paris Johnson Jr. plays like we expect him to play, he will go off to the NFL and be a first-round pick, and there will be a big hole. So the offensive line should be good. And I think, again, this year, you're talking about number 1 overall in points per game. They were that last year. Number 1 in yards per game. Number 1 in yards per play. Number 1 in efficiency. I think all those things are very achievable for Ohio State with this schedule. Their toughest games, they get Notre Dame at home. They get Michigan at home. They get Wisconsin at home. They get Iowa at home. The 2 tough road games at Penn State. Penn State might get screwed with a noon start time. And then at Michigan State, that's a little tough one. The way Mel Tucker is running his program, he's doing a great job. We have to respect that, especially if it is a night game. That could be a big crowd game. They might get screwed. And again, I'm kind of thinking they do get screwed and they get a big noon game. Just the way the schedule is lining up. Ohio State's already on ABC twice in the first 4 weeks. So maybe one other time they get an ABC night game. Maybe. They might not even get one because Fox has the overall rights to the Big Ten games. That's why Ohio State keeps having to go on Big Noon like 3 or 4 times a year. And right now they're only listed for, the Michigan game. So I would imagine it would be at least 2 more times Ohio State would have to appear on Big Noon. And at Penn State, at Michigan State could be 2 of those times. Like I don't see a home game where that's Big Noon worthy. Outside of, everyone was so worried that Fox was going to take the Notre Dame game and put it at noon. Thank God. Thank God ESPN got it. They put it on ABC at 7:30. That's going to be great for recruiting. The atmosphere should be unbelievable. And I was saying this in a previous video about Ohio State. This game versus Notre Dame, it's like almost Ohio State is due for a massive home win in a non-conference game. The last 2 big non-conference home games Ohio State has had, they've laid eggs. The Baker Mayfield game with the flag plant back in 2017, and then the 2021 Big Noon game against Oregon. So both of those games have been really rough. They're due for a huge win. I think it's coming. I'm thinking it's like, a 25, maybe 30-point win. I have them covering the 14-point spread. And the Wisconsin game, I believe they are 17-point favorites. I'm just trying to remember the spreads that I saw. I know I saw the game for Iowa. They were 24-point home favorites. That one opened up at 24. I think they're around 14-point favorites for the game against Michigan, the last game of the regular season. But overall, guys, it should be, early June 1st, I'm doing this video, so it's Ohio State today. It'll be my number 2 team tomorrow, and I will just reveal it one by one, going through my entire preseason top 10 for 2022. Ohio State is my preseason number 1 team this year. I think they will be ranked 2nd overall when they play Notre Dame. I believe Alabama will be the AP preseason number 1. That is just my personal opinion. I know some people think Georgia will be, number 2 or whatever, but I think it's going to be Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3 in terms of the preseason poll. I'm sure many people can guess who the number 2 team is going to be in my poll. If I have Ohio State number 1, tomorrow I'll be doing the number 2 team and then the number 3 team, and that's how it's going to go. But that's going to do it for this video, this early season 2022 preview. Ohio State, the major question, we know the defense is going to be better. How much better is it going to be? Is it just going to be maybe top 20, top 30, or is it going to be a possible top 10 defense? They just need it. It doesn't have to be elite. It doesn't have to be top 5. Just make it good enough with this offense, with how good it's going to be, and you will be guaranteed the playoff, in my mind. Guaranteed the playoff, and you're possibly winning a national championship. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.